we're now going to move on to talk about how we're trying to improve our health through physical activity. And I'm going to turn it over now, or as Maurelhena sometimes said, throw the ball to her. So, Maurelhena.
Hey, 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 happy Friday, everyone. First, Bethany, thank you so much. I was actually powering down, taking notes. I think I caught a cramp. I was typing so fast because it's about really a lot of the work that we do. How do we take this information, this data, use an equity lens, and design the programming that our communities can sustain? And I'm actually going to do this, and we're going to do a volley back and forth. Looking on my screen, Diana. Yes. So we're going to volley this back and forth because we want to talk a little bit about what we're doing around physical activity, how we're using open spaces, how we're using outdoor learning initiatives, and how what we're doing is taking a chance to look at the barriers and the challenges that we have and working with our partners to be able to sustain it and making sure that it's impactful programming that we're doing. So we're going to go back in time and we're going to do a flashback Friday because I'm also going to introduce some friends here. We got Anna and Helene who are kicking it with us from our partner school at PS32. So if you indulge in my non-DJ skill, we're going to go back in time. And the time is 2021. And so that is when I was introduced to the great team at PS32 and their vision. And their vision was, how can we take our school, PS32, located in the East Tremont Belmont section of the Bronx, and turn it into a community fitness hub. And this vision, we did an assessment in terms of what was in and around the community. We had an opportunity to talk with their leadership. We had an opportunity to talk with a number of stakeholders. And this was the vision that stood out. So I also want to be able to say, like, we don't come in and say, this is what you're going to do. Even though we have the data, we let our community know, like, hey, these are the things that are going on in the community. These are the barriers. These are the challenges. What is keeping you from being the most healthiest, active community possible? And so for them, it was, well, we don't have access to the spaces for outdoor learning, for play, and we don't have the framework and the structure to be able to turn our community around and increase physical activity engagement. So there was a whole process that we had around building out a community fitness hub. So we're gonna volley it back and forth between Diana and I and talk about, we are on year 3 of this initiative. So year 1, and Anna and Helene, you can jump in whenever and wherever. So year 1, we focused on building a foundation. If we're really truly going to do a community fitness hub, we need to be able to build a foundation. So in year 1, we started with the teachers. We posed the challenge of, how can we walk 10,000 miles together? And the reason why we posed that was because the teachers let us know that they would be willing to initiate a walking program. So in year 1, it was getting the teachers involved. It was, how can we support the teachers and how can we get them up bright and early in the morning to come to school to walk in their community? So in year 1, I'm gonna pass it to Anna and Helene in terms of being able to talk about what that initiative was like, and then moving forward with where we are in year 3 today. So kick it away, Anna and Helene.
Okay, that sounds great. Miss Diana, are we able to share those slides, maybe you think? We made just a few slides to put some pictures together to show you some of where we're at in year 3. Miss Sorkin, do you wanna say anything before we go to the slides?
Sure. Hi. Thank you for having us. when we started, we have to admit there was a lot of resistance on teachers' parts. They didn't want to get up early. Just a little. I'm getting there. Just a little. We gave them all trackers. We, with the help of Maurelhena and Diana, we made contests. We eventually got enough people who were ready to run and go up the Empire State Building Challenge. And so we saw progressive build through in our initiatives. And we knew that in order to get the students involved, we had to get the adults involved first and to buy into the whole process. So.
Absolutely. I have 2 Empire State medals hanging in my classroom to the side. And the excitement definitely built in that first year. And also, as Miss Maurelhena said, we spoke to our parents and really included their voices and the children's voices. I think through all of this, I'm just reminded that our greatest resource is us, right? It's our families, it's the people of the Bronx. And that's part of what's so exciting about all of these people on the call and all these partnerships. And I see you in the chat. It is a big congratulations getting teachers on board, because teachers are stressed and pressed. They work very, very hard and are often not set up for success. So when new things come in, it's hard for us. But as it proves for our students, it proves for us. To move just makes things better. It really, really does.
Thank you so much, Anna. And yeah, if you're able to, feel free to share the slides if you have any.
Oh, I got the power. Oh, I have the power. Okay, hold on. I can. I'm sorry. I just need to open them up. Then give me just a second.
So while we're looking to share the screen, one of the things is just going back in terms of building the foundation, right? So our process is one, meeting communities where they are, looking at the resources they have at hand, and being able to think about, well, what are the challenges and the barriers that they're facing? I mean, and thinking about why communities aren't engaged in physical activity. Instead of us coming in with the solution first, we incorporate their ideas. So any and everything that, I'm just having a proud auntie moment right now to see the team of PS32 there, because it does. When we think about, well, why can't our schools do this? Well, why can't our communities do this? Instead, we approach it as, well, where do you need help? How can I empower you? How can we work together as a community to create these improvements? I'm going to give it back to you, Anna.
Okay, perfect. You just must control the internet, because you literally just made it work. Can you guys see my screen here?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Okay, beautiful. So as we all know, it's all about increasing movement in the Bronx. And this is what it looks like for us. This really is just to show the partnerships are what have driven us. Everything you heard Helene said came to us from Equity Design and Bronx Health Reach. And then the work is continued with Street Lab and us. We've partnered in it as well. But the sky is truly the limit with those partnerships. This, Helene, is where I thought especially you could contribute and speak on it, because Helene is in a position and is a person who's always had our children outside. But the first spaces that we had to activate were the spaces that we already use, which is the yard. You can see some photos here. Is there anything you want to say, Ms. Sorkin?
Well, one of the things that we realized through being in COVID was that the children had very little access to outside. Most of them, for a year, some parents didn't allow their kids out at all. So we needed to get them out in the open air, utilizing different spaces so everybody was able to get fresh air and be around other people. I'm the garden and sustainability teacher. We've been fortunate enough to have a garden for over 16 years and are now currently building a hydroponics lab. So the students have access to being outside. That's became an outdoor classroom. And we transformed our garden space, our playground space into classroom space. And we needed to get the students to understand that you learn in different ways. We just don't sit in front of a book or in front of a smartboard, that we can explore, that we are able to, as Maurelhena is putting down, socialize and all these different kinds of skills. So they have really learned how to embrace an alternative way of learning, being outside. And now we're working with transferring that philosophy to the teachers, and with a lot of success that we're having.
Absolutely. That takes us to moving in these streets. The open street, the program partnering with Street Lab and the Department of Transportation, which Miss Diana and Miss Maurelhena, as you know, you were totally essential in making happen, has really, really helped us move more. And it's not just the kids, but the families as well. And this has really led to change expectations. That's been a very big takeaway for me that I've seen as well. That they know it's not just once a year. This has happened several times. As Miss Maurelhena said, it's been happening now for a couple years. And when we're outside, parents and children are asking, when's the next open streets? And that expectation is when the street is open, we're going to be able to move and play. One of the most exciting things for me is activating the spaces that are not outside and not usual spaces that we move. Like you heard Helene say, people, kind of saying, hey, come and have your classroom outdoors. You can also do a lot of movement indoors. And Coach T, who works with Equity Design, has just helped us learn so many different games. And we can play these games anywhere. You see, we're in the auditorium, we're in the classroom, we're in the lunchroom. And one of my favorite moments this year is when I was sitting some kids down on a rainy day with a video in the auditorium, and they're telling me, Miss, aren't we going to walk? Miss, aren't we going to dance? Miss, aren't we going to play? That again, they have this expectation now that whatever space they're in, it's a space that we can move in. This was just a big old, we say here, #62, no thank you. And these are some of the big things that came into my mind, into our mind as we thought about it, just getting outdoors. Like you heard Helene say, it's not only to move, but to reconnect with Earth Mother and ourselves, to take better care of our spaces and demand more green spaces, to move more, move differently. And I'm the mindfulness and movement teacher. Movement is a pathway to mindfulness, right? It's not all calm, ooh la la. It's when you're excited and you're moving is actually sometimes the most important time to practice mindfulness. To connect to ourselves, others, and community, respecting nature and looking for it everywhere because it is here in the Bronx. I see you, Bronx River Alliance. To change our expectations, building partnerships, and to have more fun together.
I want to just add, one of the most important things for us was engaging the parents in the community. We made sure that the parents were involved in a lot of the planning that we're doing. We work very closely with our PTA and our community groups. We now, through our open streets, have local community groups that represent different aspects, from reducing gang violence to Bronx Health Reach, putting up all the green spaces around the parks, coming down and setting up spaces for us. So they're all there championing the different avenues and ways we can expand into the community, both around our school and within our local communities.